My shop is an absolute mess right now. I have a halfway implemented Kanban system, and I have a robot who needs some attention. His name is Mongo. And I need to make a bunch of custom pallets. So that's my day today. My game plan is to start with the pallets and then run in circles until my ADHD brain hooks onto something else that seems fun. So, pallets. For these pallets, my work holding and program is about as simple as it gets. For op 1, we're just doing them in soft jaws. That op 1 will give us all of the geometry for our pallets. Then we can put the hardware on and then use the Aroa system itself for our final work holding. And that will let us machine the top of the pallet with really good concentricity and flatness relative to the pallet system. Concentricity might be the wrong word here, but positional accuracy. So the center of this pallet is in the center of the Aroa system. Okay, now that the pallets are kind of just in autopilot mode, let's do a quick life and shop update. So, the shop is a mess right now. Why is the shop a mess? Well, there's kind of two reasons for that. The first reason is just yesterday, the Haas has officially left the building. So I have a check on my desk for it, and it is no longer in my shop. I didn't quite get as much as I wanted for it, but reasonably it was fair. That machine paid for itself maybe not 10 times over, but probably at least 5 times over. So I was happy with having that machine, and I'm happy to have it out of my way now. I had to rearrange quite a big handful of things to get it out of here, and those things need to be cleaned up now, which we'll do in a bit. The other big thing is just some of my life schedule. So a lot of you may know that I teach manufacturing skills at a university. I teach manufacturing skills to non-credit bearing students. I do a lot of work with the Department of Corrections and then local apprentice programs. That teaching has been a nice source of consistent cash flow as I've been growing this business. When you have a brand new machine shop that's kind of getting rolling, that extra smooth cash flow can be really nice for, kind of the personal finances. I don't really need that smooth cash flow anymore, but what I do need is my time back. Now, it turns out the cheapest way of doing that is just kind of not teaching anymore. So I gave a very long-term notice at the school that I was going to be done teaching or dialing back my schedule considerably. I will probably do 1 or 2 classes a year because I do really want to maintain my relationship with the school. And then also I want to be able to keep my teaching skills trained. I don't want those skills to atrophy, frankly, because they're valuable skills. Half of running a business is communicating with others, and teaching is where I get the most practice at that. Plus, if Subtract or Audacity ever get to the point where they're basically running themselves, I can go back to doing a little bit more classes because I do really enjoy that work. I am teaching for the university basically up until the holidays, and then I drop off to just 1 day a week for the next, couple of months, and then I will be basically done, except when there's a really exciting class that comes up that they can convince me to teach. That'll give me a lot more time to focus on Audacity, to focus on Subtract, and start kind of moving this business forwards more. And no, it is not a coincidence. This is coming after the $20,000 a month video series that very much was to kind of let me, start to focus on one thing now instead of just trying to chase things that provided nice, smooth, consistent money. One downside of having a shop that is by your house is messes still happen even when you're not working. Sometimes things just show up in here, and sometimes things get dirtier even though I'm not actively in here at the moment. It could be small things like a little box of seeds that show up or a wood-burning stove that shows up on a pallet. And then to make matters worse is I got halfway through a reorganization project when teaching got busy. So I have a bunch of boxes here. These, I'm working on tearing down those shelves back there, and I need to get everything off of those shelves, and I'm purging as much as I can, and the rest is going in neatly organized, neatly labeled bins. Okay, maybe neatly organized is the wrong word, but they are neatly labeled, if nothing else. Oh, and that set of shelves specifically is going away, but that storage location is not. So while those 2x4s are coming down, they will be replaced with this kind of standard pallet racking that I use on all of my other shelves. Taking the chips to the scrapyard is by far the worst job in my shop. Fortunately, I do it only once every, even every 6 months would be a lot for me. So they're gone now, and I have a lot more space. So I realized I don't actually need to have that shelf completely torn down before I build the new shelf. I had temporarily stuck all of that stuff out of the way up there, but that's not where I want it to stay permanently. So everything on this shelf has or will have a Kanban card that goes with it. My other shelf I'm calling my unmanaged inventory. For example, airlines. There's no way I'm going to Kanban airlines. However, I do want to have, a spare around, and that's going to go on this other shelf. So managed inventory going here, Kanban cards. Unmanaged inventory going behind me, no Kanban cards, everything neatly in bins. Let's do a Mongo update. So Mongo is slowly starting to get a collection of work holding here that he can use. This shelf layout is not finalized. We'll probably change our spacing here. We'll probably change the vertical spacing on the shelves, and he'll probably end up with at least one more shelf on the backhand side that can fit tool holders, which I'm really excited for, but that's a future problem. I do want this to be the highest tool capacity Tormach in existence. It'll take a little while, it'll take some integration, but eventually Mongo is going to be able to change tools. So far, everything on the hardware side, I have not touched myself at all. This was all done by my intern, not the one you saw in the last video, but a different intern. This is intern Carter. Carter is a high school student getting ready to go off to university, and I have been just blown away by his knowledge and the quality of his work. This up here is the standard UR box, like this is just part of the robot. And then down here, we have our own custom box. We have kind of our main power switch here, which must be on because it powers this. It's all powered through one 110 volt outlet. And then if we open it up, inside here, it's just kind of normal control panel stuff. The real panel builders would probably laugh at our wire management and stuff. We have some work to do there. But remember, this was built by a high schooler, and I think it is outstanding for, the amount of experience that he has. Even our network is coming in from this Wi-Fi mesh extension. Even that is powered from the box, which is all protected underneath that main breaker, and then our disconnect switch. At this point, the lights and buttons don't do anything, but we have the ability to make them do something. They just don't yet. We also have a ton more wire management stuff that we haven't used that will eventually neatify all of this once it's a little bit more finalized. So if we finish initializing Mongo here, okay, Mongo is on, and we can hit run program. There's not a program loaded right now, but that's okay. Then on our tablet here, we have an interface with our Pallet scheduling program. Now, right now, this does just about everything except actually run pallets. So all of the communication between this and the robot works. We've tested that. All of the communication between this and the mill works. We've tested that, but we're not yet able to give commands. What I do have is a pretty intense debugging screen here. So we can see like all of the robot's inputs and outputs. You can see some of them we have labeled here, like the Aroa and the door, and then the rest are still currently unassigned. And we also have the ability to, for diagnostic purposes, to be able to run some programs. So like there's the door open, which we probably don't want to leave open long because of the coolant, and there's closed. And then we have feedback from the machine. You know, there's things like, you know, the XYZ position, whether it's homed or not, the distance to go, the velocity of the axis. This is all coming live from the mill as it's running these programs. It even has things like the tool that it's running, which ATC position is loaded, and then it is able to take a list of all of the tools that are currently in the ATC and then show me that. This is all of the tools that have offset values inside the tool table. If it's highlighted in green, that means it's in the ATC. If it's yellow, then it's been set, but it's not yet loaded in the machine. So that's like those ones up there. And then I can see the I/O that's coming out of the Tormach, things that are assigned in the HAL of the machine, the hardware abstraction layer, things like washdown, coolant calls, all that comes out of this digital input and output. I even have ways of managing the programs that are on the robot. So, you know, I have a program for opening the door. I have a program for closing the door. I can, you know, edit that. Well, actually I can't edit the file from here, but I could open the file. I get a preview of the file. I can move it or delete it. And this is literally a brand new feature, but I just added the same for the mill. We have the mill programs here. I don't know if this is working yet. Yep, that looks like it is working yet. We should be able to open the G-code folder there. Yep, okay, and this is all the G-code in my G-code file right now. Eventually here, we should be able to run these programs from the tablet. The way the workflow is gonna work is I have my pallet pool down here. This is what's gonna be up there. Each one of those positions will be numbered. Then the machine will know which fixture is in which different position here, which pallet is in each different position here. It'll have a list of tools that are in that pallet, and you'll be able to assign a program to it. So like right now, you know, this program here, Adele, is listed as, you know, program op 0. Those are the tools that are in it. That's its cycle time, and it's already added to the queue here. So if we look for it, there's Adele third in the queue. And it knows right now that it's raw stock, but once it has parts done, it'll know that, and it'll be able to put it back into the pool. I also have two spots here. One is called on deck, one is dripping. These don't exist yet in the physical world, but we're gonna have two positions there that are for transitioning in and out of the machine. That will all make much more sense once we actually get that running. I'm still laying groundwork, I'm still laying bones, but we're making forwards progress. My biggest concern right now is the little fork that we have for changing out pallets. This works, we've done tests with it. I'm not concerned about the longevity of those little 3D printed forks. It'll be nice for testing to be able to iterate quickly, but I suspect we will machine something probably out of steel or aluminum relatively quickly once we get into production mode. One of the things that my high school intern still doesn't quite understand is the amount of abuse machining systems get and how consistently for how long they need to do the same thing over and over again. It's very easy to design something that will work once or work 10 times or work 100 times, but I want this to be able to switch pallets unattended with nobody here, you know, tens of thousands of times at a minimum. And that's a kind of a different level of requirement than getting something to work once or twice. And like, you just don't have that experience as a high schooler. This is how you get that experience. And then lastly here, I have this. This is the controller that died from that machine. The computer inside there is dead. In fact, it has now been removed completely. But the touch screen and the monitor should theoretically work if we can find the hardware to get, you know, whatever those wires are to interface with HDMI and hook it up to something like a laptop or a Raspberry Pi, and we can mount it on the wall right there next to all of our other controllers. So apparently when I recorded my outro, my mic wasn't on and I needed to re-record it. That actually works out though, because it's like 2 or 3 days later and I have a pretty big Mongo status update. So check this out. If I grab this pallet here and move it to the machine, it's gonna ask me if I want to actually move it with the robot. I'm gonna hit yes. And now it picks up the pallet. We open the door. Unlocks the Aroa system. We drop in our pallet. Retract out, lock the Aroa system, close the door, and then we should come back to our safe place here. Nice. And then we can also hit put away pallet with Mongo, and we're going to put it in pool position 1. So now it's going to do the opposite. So door open. Mongo comes in, unlocks a Aroa pallet. Lifts up a Aroa pallet. Closes door. And puts away pallet. Good boy, Mongo, good boy. There is still a whole lot to do. There's a whole lot that can be improved and sped up and streamlined. Obviously, the pallet rack itself is not perfect. It's a lot more wobbly. It needs to be, which makes it a little bit more difficult for the robot to get the pallet placed accurately. The fingers almost certainly need to be replaced with something more resilient than PLA. At very least, printing them in nylon, if not going full aluminum or steel on those. I have plans to put a staging area for loading and unloading so that it can start closer to the final position. There's a lot of work to do, but Mongo is at least in principle working now. The next step is just to get the computer running programs on the mill. Everything is still only read-only from the mill, but we need to be able to run programs on the mill, and that's what I'm going to do next. But I think this will wrap it up for here. If you need parts made, check out subtractmanufacturing.com, and either myself or somebody else on the network can get you parts made. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.